Welcome to another edition of the Leadership Series, sponsored by Lympha Press. We are using this forum to shine a light on people that are making a difference in the worlds of lymphedema, lipedema, chronic venous insufficiency, and wounds. And our guest today is very closely aligned, and for good reason, with Lipedema Simplified, Catherine Seo's organization. But Leslyn Keith's story encompasses even more than her relationship with Lipedema Simplified. And so I welcome you today, Dr. Keith.
Thank you very much for having me, Brenda. It's wonderful to be here and chat with you.
It's always wonderful. I love doing lives with you on Facebook or whatever forum it is. And Lympha Press loves the relationship that we have with Lipedema Simplified and supporting the lipedema community. And I specifically said, Dr. Keith, because you never want me to use that term. And I think it's just because you're incredibly humble.
It still doesn't feel natural and normal. I completed my doctorate in 2015, and so I don't know. The doctor doesn't sound normal.
Well, it feels right, especially when I begin to hear you talk and your breadth of knowledge and wisdom. So let's start there. What is your background?
Sure. I started in lymphedema therapy, and I happened to I just happened upon it because I was doing an internship for completing my master's degree in occupational therapy. And I was going to a hospital in Arizona to do an internship. And the person who's to be my mentor and supervisor had just started a lymphedema therapy program. And she said, I know we were planning to do some other work, but I am spending so much time with this program. I think you're going to have to watch this instead. So, and that was my first exposure to it. And I thought, I think I want to change to this specialty instead. So as I was always looking for something to focus on in occupational therapy, because occupational therapy, we're very much generalists. We know a little bit about everything, but I really wanted to focus on something that I could be passionate about and just do that. And when I saw lymphedema therapy, I thought, this is it. And so ever since then, I, focused on that. I got the certification and I begged who I was working for at the time, can I just start this program and just do this? And amazingly, they said yes. So that really started. And when I started my first program in 2000.
So I love the Rumi quote, that which I seek is seeking me. Mm-hmm. And you were seeking a specialty. You didn't want the generalist approach, and this found you. But really, what was it about lymphedema therapy that struck a chord with you?
I think the first thing that attracted me is that I'm very left-brained and I like concrete, results. And so many times when we're working with our patients, the outcomes of our treatment are so nebulous, and it kind of seems like things are a little bit better, but I just like, those concrete numbers and results. And when I was watching my mentor treat lymphedema patients, it was very concrete. They came in and they were this big, and then when we finished, we were this big. I mean, it was just, and then all of the things that happened with that reduction in size, because that was the least of it, right? And their ability to be able to dress themselves and participate in their family activities. I mean, all these things were improved and changed because of managing the lymphedema. And so that absolutely fascinated me. And I just said, I can't wait to get my hands on people and start doing this.
And you did and have been, and you are one of the leading voices when it comes to the treatment of lymphedema, and also have become a powerful voice in the lipedema community. How did that happen?
Well, and it's one of those serendipitous things, just like, happening to be at that particular internship when they were starting a lymphedema program. I had already, and as part of my practice, because I was so concerned about the obesity epidemic, I wanted to do some research on how treating obesity could have a beneficial effect on lymphedema. And so I pursued my doctorate wanting to explore that more. And I was indeed able to do a small pilot study and developed a lifestyle program to address obesity with my lymphedema patients. And when I was presenting those results at the NIH symposium that was held in, I believe it was 2015, right when I was finishing up my doctorate, I happened to meet Catherine Seo there. And she came over and was looking at my poster and the results of my study. And we both looked at each other and said, I wonder if this would work for lipedema as well. And so that, because of that one little meeting, I mean, everything blossomed after that. And so I'm still heavily involved in lymphedema, of course, but very much have done a much more focus on lipedema since that meeting in 2015. We started doing things together in 2016, and it's really exploded from there. And I'm really pleased with the work, not only with Lipedema Simplified, but also with the nonprofit arm Lipedema Project. And I've become the president of the board for Lipedema Project, as well as a director of research, because that's really what I'm interested in, is supporting research in lipedema to see how we can improve the lives of women with this condition.
Your curiosity and your zeal for research and connecting the dots and making an impact continues to create a path for you. And in creating a path for you, you are leading so many others to results. Let's talk about the fact that you are quite published as well, and how people can find your books.
Yes, so I've published several papers along with my colleagues at Lipedema Simplified and Lipedema Project. We published a paper through Medical Hypotheses, ketogenic diet as a potential intervention for lipedema. Kind of really started that, but since then we've published several other letters to editor and other articles that have been in like lipedema magazines, not necessarily peer-reviewed journals, really focusing on the ketogenic diet side. And we have another article in process right now that we hope to have published soon. I have two other articles. I recently published one with Pathways magazine with Dr. Eric Westman, and specifically talking about using a ketogenic diet for lymphedema as well as lipedema. And then another article about how the influence of lifestyle practices on lymphedema outcomes. And so those have just recently come out. But then, as you said, I've written a couple books. And the first was an outcome of my lifestyle program that I developed in that study that I did. And so it was really directed towards the lymphedema professional. I wanted them to bring this exciting intervention to their patients. And so I directed it to them, to the professional, but mostly patients with lymphedema and lipedema read the book. And so I said, well, I think I need another book that is going to really put this to the layperson as well as professional, because that's who seems to be more interested in the book. So I did my second book that just came out in 2019, The Lymphatic Code, that really talks about all the lifestyle practices that can influence your lymphatics, including a ketogenic diet. And so, yeah, I've really seemed to enjoy writing. So I've been doing a lot of that lately.
You have a style of writing that makes complex matters understandable to even the layperson. So I'm not surprised that the patient community latched on to your work, and many have seen remarkable results. You know, we always say at Lympha Press, we're one of the tools in your toolbox. Diet and how you approach the management of your conditions, it's one of the tools in your toolbox. All the tools working together can make a difference. And I love how you said it wasn't just about reduction. We say that all the time. Many patients show a reduction in size, particularly lymphedema and often lipedema, but it's the quality of life stuff the reduced pain, increased mobility, getting your life back. That's what we're all in the same business of supporting. Absolutely. So what would you say your core values are personally? And then in your role with the Lipedema Project, what are the core values?
Well, I think that I'm mostly focused on, and this is very much in line with the Lipedema Project and Lipedema Simplified, is increasing awareness and providing educational opportunities about management of lymphatic disorders like lipedema and lymphedema. So in that end, I really like the writing end and educating lymphatic professionals as well as the patients themselves. So I present at conferences, write papers, and do what I can, participate in things like this, the leadership series. So we're trying to get the word out as much to lymphatic professionals that there is a basic conservative way to treat and manage lymphatic disorders, but let's look outside of the box and let's look at the whole person. What else can we do to support that person to, as you say, improve their quality of life?
I love that. Let's look outside of the box. That may be the title of this interview. I'm not sure. Now, we have two audiences for our leadership series, patients and clinicians. What should patients know about your work?
Well, and I'm so focused on the lifestyle aspect. And I really, for probably since 2011, 2012, I've been focused on the dietary aspect. It seems to be the one most outside the box for most people's understanding of what is a healthy way to eat. But actually, since coming to work with Catherine, I have been able to look at the other aspects of a person and really taking that holistic view. When Catherine and I started working together, both of us were really focused on the diet because we thought this is the magic pill. This is the one thing that's going to do it. But it really does take a team of professionals. It takes, like you're saying, a toolbox to manage these conditions because they're chronic, they're lifelong. And so we need to look at all the other aspects as well, including the person's emotional health, psychological and mental, and other aspects of the physical as well as nutrition. And then what we're doing now is a lot of work with community. And so that social aspect, just like you do at Lympha Press with your roundtable discussions and stuff like that, bringing the people together peer to peer to be able to support and help each other. It can't just be a one-way street of healthcare professionals talking to the person. I always found that my patients knew a lot more about what was happening in their body than I did. So collaborating on, what is going to be those best interventions to support that person, they come up with the best ideas.
I love that you said that. And I was surprised when we started the roundtables that so many clinicians would show up as attendees because it was intended for patients. But then what I heard from them was, we like hearing the patients talk because we learn from them. Right. And so I love that humility of we are a team and we know that nobody knows your condition better than you. So that's beautiful. I also love that the approach is there can never be too much support. And whether it comes from Lympha Press or the Lipedema Project, Lipedema Simplified, any of the many organizations, look, oh my goodness, how powerful when we all work together and we're not competing. We are all in the business of helping people. And I absolutely love that. So glad you mentioned that. So now for clinicians, what would be the takeaway message for them from this interview?
Well, I think it's what you just pointed out yourself, that we all need to work as a team and support each other. And one thing that I have found with other lymphedema professionals, they are so open to working together and to collaborating. When I first set up my private practice in lymphedema in my community, there was already another therapist who had her own private practice and she provided lymphedema therapy. There was no sense of, oh, this is a competition and I don't want to talk to you. Immediately there was someone else, oh, there's someone else who knows about this condition. Let's talk. And so I always found that in this community that we are so desperate to increase the awareness in the community and for the patients themselves, that we love working together. We love collaborating. And I have never felt that sense of no, we need to protect our own, little projects and things that we're doing and make sure that no one encroaches on that. There is no lines dividing us from each other. And I've always enjoyed it when other clinicians contact me and want to discuss. I can talk about lymphedema and lipedema all day. I can, I thank you for asking me to be on this interview, because I just enjoy talking about this. And that's how I think it is in the community at large with lymphatic professionals.
I am inspired with every person I talk to, because it's not just a job. It's even more than a profession. It's almost a calling, that it calls you to pursue it and to continue studying. And I think for patients, it gives them such comfort to know that people like you are devoting their time and their energy, their brilliance and their resources to get answers. So, and you are the easiest interview in the history of interviews, because all I have to do is say one thing and boom, you're off, which is so much fun for me. Some of the fun and the energy comes from success stories. So do you have one in your back pocket that you could pull out and tell us to inspire us?
So, I have so many success stories, and I actually write about a couple in my book. But I will tell you about one in particular, a person that was coming to my clinic. She had diagnosed with lipedema as well as lymphedema, which is not unusual. And I would say that the lipedema sometimes disguises or is blurred with obesity, but she was not that much overweight. And so, you just go by BMI. Quite often, it doesn't work for lipedema, because you're looking at just that disproportional fat on the lower body, and she was relatively slim, maybe a little overweight on her upper body. So, but she was coming to me with horrendous symptoms, just so much pain and so much fatigue. She really felt like she was ready for a wheelchair. And so she said, I really want to try this diet. I've tried it in the past. I think I want to try it again, and let's look at other management strategies that I can use to support, taking care of this chronic condition. And so she started coming to me with her husband, which I thought that was fabulous. Let's get, your support system involved. They can learn about it too, and you can share with all the strategies that you guys are already employing. He was massaging her legs for her every night. I mean, what a wonderful man. So they came to me together. We started working on these lifestyle issues. And within a month of really employing the ketogenic diet and some other strategies, within a month, her pain was from 10 down to 2. There was no weight loss at this point. And so her journey is actually what got me thinking, there is more than just weight loss that's happening here. With this way of eating, it seems to address a lot of the other symptoms of lipedema and lymphedema. Decreased fibrosis, so the tissue was feeling softer. Decreased bruising in her case, because she had lipedema as well. And the energy, the increased energy, there wasn't, like I say, there wasn't a lot of weight loss. So it wasn't just she lost weight and therefore she felt more energy. So all these things were happening in the first month. And of course, that was very motivating. Let's keep going. And so over the course of a year, she had lost probably about 40 or 50 pounds. But her, like I say, her energy was such at a level that she was back to gardening 3 or 4 hours a day, walking on the beach with her family, and doing all these, participating in activities with her family again. The pain, was so pretty much resolved. The tissue felt better. The volume of her legs had reduced. And when I show her before after pictures, when I do presentations, let me tell you, the audience gasps. you can just see, and not only how her body looks slimmer, but her countenance, her happiness shows through. She had dyed her hair blue. She just felt so much better. So, and then she went to her doctor and she said, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing a ketogenic diet and all these things are better. And the doctor said, well, I want to make sure that you are healthy. So let's do some tests. Let's do some blood tests. Let's do tests to look at the health of your arteries. Let's make sure everything's good. And let me tell you, her blood tests were spectacular. She did what's called the coronary artery calcium score. And she was in her 70s at the time, and she had a score of 0, which means there was no calcification at all. Her doctor was stunned. She did the carotid artery Doppler to see if there's any plaque there. Perfect. I mean, everything was so perfect. Her doctor was actually very stunned, and he said, maybe I want to try eating like you're eating. So she had just, and this is, she's not the only one. This is something that it was particularly stunning with her, but it very much motivated me to continue when someone had such a spectacular result.
We always say, whenever we do interviews, there's no one plan that's one size fits all that works for everyone. I know after hearing that testimony, people are going to say, I want to look into the keto diet. Do you recommend that people don't try to cobble it together themselves or get medical guidance to embark on a ketogenic diet?
So, and with every one of my patients that I help with this is always with their doctor's okay, and in some cases, even the doctor's collaboration. If you are taking any sort of medication, particularly medication that works on your blood pressure or works on diabetes or pre-diabetes, it's very, very important that your doctor is involved, because these medications will have to be adjusted, and very, very soon. And if they are not adjusted, you could be over-medicated, which could be potentially a dangerous situation. So I will tell you, though, that I've had several patients who have not been on any medications and didn't have any other significant comorbidities. And I have simply given them the handout that gives them the information, and look into it more, if you will, talk to your doctor, see what they suggest. And they've just decided to take off and do it on their own, and also have done very, very well. I will tell you, though, that that is not the recommended way. I always like you to involve your other healthcare providers. And sometimes it also takes more than just the information and maybe a little bit of coaching from me. You actually need someone who is well-versed, a healthcare professional, and can help you adapt the diet to your particular situation. Yes, you can muddle along on your own and probably do well, but to really get the optimal results, it really helps to have someone really coach for, yes, this food is on a ketogenic diet, but it kind of looks like, for you, it increases your pain and increases your bloating. So maybe this is not such a good food to choose for you. And that is a little bit beyond my capabilities to figure that stuff out for each individual. And so I always recommend, for instance, with Lipedema Simplified, we have a coaching program. We have nutritionists that would do that with a patient to help them. And they're very familiar with lipedema and lymphedema, so they can really help with that. Sometimes that also, just having that support and knowing that you don't have to figure it out on your own, that when you have what you feel like is a failure, that you have someone there to help pick you back up and you're not on your own. Because any weight loss or management of your condition is going to have ups and downs. And that is hard to take when you're by yourself, but you have someone who's assisting you, then it doesn't feel as lonely and like I'm the only one going through this.
Fantastic. I'm so glad you clarified that. So I now know that people are going to want to get in touch with you or Lipedema Simplified. How do they do that?
So just lipedema-simplified.org. It will take you to our website, and then there is a button along the top that says coaching. And you click on that. Of course, take a look at the entire website. There's lots of information on there. Information more about, like I say, the holistic approach and looking at all aspects of care, not just on dietary concerns. And so, and when you look at the coaching, you will see that we have coaches that do it other aspects as well. We have one that just looks at pain and how can we deal with pain with lipedema. We have a certified lymphedema therapist who will help guide you to the resources for getting therapy care, or what should you add to your self-care? How do you do self-manual lymph drainage? Is a pneumatic pump something that would be good to augment your home program? And so she can help coach you on finding a good therapist in your area and collaborating to get those other resources for you.
Fantastic. So just to clarify, and I know I'm going to get into this deeper with Catherine Seo when I interview her, Lipedema Simplified is really professional resources and a community, whereas Lipedema Project is the nonprofit arm.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then
resources available. I know when I was starting to learn about lipedema with Lympha Press, I found the Lipedema projects find a person that can diagnose you prompt and the map so valuable.
Yes. Yeah. So Lipedema Simplified really has a lot of educational opportunities, lots of offerings in that way, but also it has the membership community, the tribe. So it really helps with that community, that social aspect. And it does everything it can to increase awareness throughout the community for both professionals and for the patient. And I would say that Lipedema Simplified is very heavily used by the patient community. And the Lipedema Project, we're really focused on increasing awareness, but supporting research. And so we're the ones that are going to write the articles and support research opportunities. I do what's called research update flash briefings and Facebook Lives, where I look at recent articles published about lipedema or that I feel like are of relevance to lipedema. And then I kind of pick apart the article and let everybody know about this paper that's out there. And maybe this is a good paper to take with you to your doctor's office. So we do a lot of that type of thing, more of that awareness and supporting research.
Wonderful. Thank you for that clarification. So much has been accomplished. What's on your wish list?
To get more research out there and more awareness. Where, the pandemic and the lockdowns was a double-edged sword. And one thing that happened that was actually on the good side is that it really made it easier to be a global community, because everybody started doing outreach online and doing conferences online and doing just, small meeting groups online and all these things that we could do, that now we have women that we're working with in South Africa, in Australia, throughout Europe. And so we've really come together as this global community. And so I feel like I'd like to continue with that. Yes, I want to be in person, but I want to be able to continue to collaborate and raise awareness with that global community. So that's what I really want to focus on.
I love it. And, when I think about silver linings of the pandemic, it changed my entire career with Lympha Press. Mm-hmm. And in a beautiful way, to allow me to use my background as an interviewer and producer and TV person to connect with patients and clinicians and to build something that we had never done before. And it was sort of that which I seek is seeking me. It's sort of your gifts lead you to your destiny kind of thing. So I want to just say, this has been a privilege. I could talk to you forever. This has gone on longer than most of my interviews.
Oh, sorry.
No. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And I'm doing a lot of talking too. So two things. To the lipedema patients out there, I just want to say that you may not realize that you are living with the pain because you've had it your whole life. And I want to encourage you that when you take some actions and incorporate some tools in your toolbox, you may realize that, oh my goodness, this is something I've had my whole life and I don't have it anymore. And it feels great. So you may not even realize. Kelly Maynard is a patient we worked with, Leslyn, and she had this heaviness in her body that she didn't even realize she had until it was gone.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, so please be hopeful out there, patients who are watching, be hopeful. There are tools in your toolbox. Contact someone like Leslyn and the people at Lipedema Simplified and also Lympha Press, of course. So with that, what would be the takeaway to our audience today, Leslyn? What do you want to leave people with?
Well, I would just say that, just to capitalize on what you just said, that there is hope, and you may not even realize the degree which lipedema and lymphedema have affected your life, because you've managed, you've coped, you've done things on your own, but there's always more. There's even more that can be done. And so I want to impress upon people that to please contact me and Lipedema Simplified and the project, because there is more out there than you even know, and there's more out there than I know. So, and we are going to explore all these things together. Join us and let's figure out a better way.
Let's figure out a better way. Dr. Keith, thank you so much for your time today. You are amazing, and the community is really fortunate to have you. And I was fortunate to interview you today. And I want to thank all of you for tuning into this edition of the Leadership Series. We're going to continue shining a spotlight on leaders who are making a difference, people just like Dr. Leslyn Keith. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.